You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope everything's good and fine and awesome wherever this audio is finding your ears. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving if you're in the States and that's a thing that you do. And if not, I hope you had a great time anyway. I always want everybody to have a great time. This interview is something I've been working on for a really long time. It's a man that we've all come to know and love, but yet we know so little about, and that would be Scott Harper. You might know him better as the man behind Knobs Demos, one of the coolest demo channels on the interwebs. If you don't know Knobs Demos, go check him out. The man is kind of responsible for this new wave of like demo art piece type stuff that's been going on, where it's much more than just a pedal demo. It's really a kind of an interesting production in and of itself. So check that out if you're not familiar, and all of this conversation will make a lot more sense. One thing I'd like to note is that and on this interview, I asked him about this book he's been writing, and we get into the details behind all that. It's all about pedals. It's really cool. And I asked him when the date was that it was going to drop, and he was not 100% sure at the moment of recording, but I can tell you it was last Friday. So that would be November 29th. So the book Pedal Crush is out now and available. So go check it out. I know I'm going to get a copy. How could you not? I'm a pedal nerd. Of course I'm going to pick one up. Yeah, it's available, I think, kind of everywhere. If you just Google Pedal Crush book, I'm sure it will come up. Or I know there's a Pedal Crush Instagram, and I know it's going to be all over the Knobs Demos Instagram. So there's plenty of information about the book out there, and it looks really, really cool. I can't wait to read it. So yes, I just wanted to put that out there. He wasn't sure when it was when we recorded it, but it's the 29th. So there you go. You have that information. And without further ado, let's get to know the man behind the curtain that is Scott Harper of Knobs Demos. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have the man behind Knobs Demos, Mr. Scott Harper. What's going on, dude?
Right. Hey, Blake.
We can say your name now. Like, for a long time, it was like, can we say his name? Is he like Voldemort? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it was confusing for me, too.
Yeah. I remember the first time Joel introduced us at NAMM, and it was like, hi, this is Knobs. And it's like, oh, it's Knobs, but what's your real name? It's like, This feels weird. But
Joel's kids call me Knobs.
They do? For real?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, well, why don't we just let me stop blabbering, and we'll let you tell your story, because that's kind of what this is all about. I know there's a ton of people who, for most people's perception, you just kind of burst on the scene one day making like some of the raddest demos that have ever, existed on the internet, really. And that's kind of it just really resonated with people. I know the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is just really great and really unique, and a different spin on what we had seen before. And I think that's, what blew the channel up. But how did you get there? You didn't just wake up one day as a child and start doing that stuff. So what's the origin story?
What's the origin story? There isn't like a really clear one. My best guess is I was living in Iceland for a year, right around the time that I really, really got into pedals. And I think that it was like a really small city of like 3,000 people, and there was no music store. And I think that was kind of the moment I turned to demos. And I've just never really been like like a rock and roll person, I guess. So a lot of the demos that existed at the time weren't really like I wanted to get my hands on the pedals and like do something else. Um, and then it was years later before I made the first demo, and it was just so like I still had that same urge where I felt like there was lots of good demos, but they were kind of presenting a side of the pedals that wasn't like answering my questions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I mean, that's my best guess. Like I wasn't like I had this burning desire to make demos. Like I wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty half-baked answer, but yeah.
More born out of necessity than actual desire, maybe. Is that what you're digging at?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Like an appetite. You know, I think that I obviously really liked guitar pedals, and I was really curious about them. And yeah, like the original idea was just to make a demo, and you know, it's why I've like not had an identity for so long. I wanted to make a demo that wasn't about a person or their ability to like play the instrument or not. And it was just really about the pedal and what it was, and a lot of it, you know, like exploring all the corners of the pedal and all the things it could do.
Right. Backing up a little bit further than that, like what about your childhood? When did you pick up guitar? And if you didn't come at it from a rock perspective, what genre or type of music were you listening to that influenced your playing?
I picked up the guitar because I thought it would be. I took it in as a course in high school.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it would be easy. That's why I took it. So I was making music at the time already. I was into like making like little beats and stuff like that. That was kind of, I was really into hip hop. So that was I think I started doing that you know, when I was like a young teen. So guitar music wasn't really a priority. So the guitar wasn't really a priority. But I thought this would be like an easy course to take. And, you know, the guitar's not easy. So I was wrong. But I got those fundamentals. And yeah, I really didn't like it. I remember it's kind of interesting now because like, spoiler, I really like playing guitar now. But I remember so clearly just there was no like immediate spark at the beginning. Definitely not. I was just going through the paces because, you know, I didn't get that gratification of like we were doing like Blackbird. I remember Blackbird very well. That was like our final exam, which is a great song. And I don't really remember what else, but like it wasn't like satisfying for me to play those songs. Those weren't like, yeah, things that I listened to.
Right.
But I got those fundamentals, and then years later, or a few years later anyway, like I had some friends who did play guitar, and they were just kind of lying around, and my musical taste was changing. So I had like just enough. It was really almost luck. I had like just enough ability with the instrument that it was fun to pick up the guitar every now and again. And then I just improved gradually. And then I did find lots of music that I enjoyed that had the guitar in it. And yeah, I met some friends who really were into improvisation. I think that's what like got it for me. It was the instrument that I was most competent with at the time, and yeah, like the only one I can play. And I met some friends who were talented and loved improv, and so I just kind of took that on, and that was kind of almost like from the day I could play bar chords. I was just really interested in like improvising with the guitar. That was always the point.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. It seems yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but your videos seem very I can't say that word. Improvisational. I should be able to say that a little better. It's a little tough for me.
Words are tough.
Yeah, words are hard. I should do something else for a living. Yeah, they seem like they're very off the cuff though, and but at the end of the video, it's a very polished thing. Are they thought out, or is that correct?
Oh no, you're totally right. Yeah. Almost to a fault. Not almost, like to a fault. I should write more music. But you know, the improvisation is definitely the priority and will continue to be, but like increasingly I'm trying to challenge myself to write things. But I really like my comfort zone is to improvise, get a bunch of material and then edit it. And I think that, yeah, that goes like right back to the beginning. Like when I started making music, it was like sampling, kind of like standard hip hop stuff. It was like sampling old jazzy stuff and then making
Mm-hmm.
songs out of it.
Right.
And it's like still what I do. I just play the sounds myself now.
Interesting. So do you remember the first guitar pedal that you got, or maybe the first one that really opened your mind to like, wow, this could be something?
Sort of. I found an old, like a Behringer slow gear clone
Mm-hmm.
that was under my childhood bed. So that was definitely one of the first. The first pedal I remember that had like a life changing thing was one of the Boss DD delays. Because I think I found it when I still sucked at guitar and like nobody would want to play with me. So that delay was really cool because it kept me in time. I think that was like really a revelation for me. Is when I played into it, it kept me in time. I just turned up the feedback and it just actually sounded good. Like up to that point, nothing I played on the guitar would actually sound good.
Right.
But the delay just kind of like opened things up for me. So that was like an important experience. Credit that pedal.
Yeah, I think everyone's first delay pedal is a real eye opener. Specifically that effect. It's like because you can do so many different things just by adjusting the time of the repeats. Like you like all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's how David Gilmour did that. Like like I didn't really understand. I remember hearing that stuff when I was a kid, such stuff like he would do, and I didn't understand it. Like I knew how to play like power chords and stuff, but I'm like, how does he make the note go for so long? Because I knew it wasn't just the sustain of the guitar doing that by that point. I'd played enough okay instruments to kind of understand, like, that's not just that. And it isn't just his fingers. Like, of course, his fingers are magical, but like, it's not just that. How is it sustaining forever? And yeah, then I got a delay pedal and I was like, oh, there it is. At least there's
There it
part
is.
of it. There's part of it anyway. Delay seems to be an eye opener for lots of people.
I think delay is such a perfect effect because you don't. It's so intuitive. Like it's like you said, it's this very magical sound, but a baby could do it.
Right.
There's no real way to screw it up unless it can oscillate. Yeah, keep your babies away from oscillating delay.
Keep them away from the maxed out feedback knobs that could get in trouble with that one. So yeah, I'm sure I could go back into the interwebs and figure this out. But what was the first pedal that you did an actual like knobs demo for, and why'd you pick that one?
Mm-hmm. First demo was the Reverberation Machine from Death by Audio. Second one was the Count to 5 by Montreal Assembly. I think that's the one. That was the first demo for many. It seems like that was the one that really helped the channel, for sure. Like, anyway, yeah, the Reverberation Machine was first. Big fan of that pedal. Still have it. It's got this like it's really simple. I really enjoy, especially these days, simple pedals that do a lot. The interaction between the elements being kind of the thing. Like the Reverberation Machine is odd, not in some kind of like experimental or dramatic way. It just, there's something about it that doesn't sound normal or natural. And I really like that about it. So yeah, when I got that pedal, I thought it might be a good idea to make a demo finally.
And then the Count to 5, which is still probably one of the weirdest pedals that exist. I mean, am I wrong in saying that? That's got to be one of the most out there ones.
I think that was a really important pedal. I think that that was kind of like, to me, that was the most important pedal of like the 2010s. It's a weird thing to say, but I really felt like that was the kind of the beginning of something that has become like really popular and is like something I really enjoy. Yeah, Scott had a really cool idea. Scott's the guy behind Montreal Assembly. He was onto something with that idea. kind of years ahead of many other people. And yeah,
I think you
it
did
rocks.
I think so that was you said that the one that really blew up your channel, like kind of initially, was that because it's such a wild device and there wasn't really that much other content out there, or what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, yeah, that's simple. I think it was just right place, right time for me. And I just think that, it's kind of a natural fit, especially at the time, like that pedal and the kind of state of mind I was in and like what I was doing and looking for at the time was just perfect. And in those days, I wasn't even, that was the first video I ever edited. So I didn't even edit the first demo
Oh,
because I'd never made any films before, before that stuff. So I didn't know how.
that is very interesting. Well done on the first attempt. That you seem to have a natural eye and knack for it. Um, was there
It's
any
hard.
part of that process that like that you can share, that like how has your process changed over time?
Oh man, it's kind of the same. It's I remember I was using Final Cut Pro, and I find software kind of like a living room.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
you're kind of like in it, when you're working in it, you're like, that's your environment that you're in. And for whatever reason, it's the same with After Effects, which is, one of the Adobe programs. I hate being in there. And it's a fine program and people do great things with it. And this, like, as soon as I open it and I look at it, I feel bad and I don't want to be there. And so I was using Final Cut for that first edit. And it's just like, I was just uncomfortable. I was just uncomfortable editing this video. So I use Premiere now and I'm much happier with that. But it's not a lot more sophisticated. Like I'm very poor at learning how programs actually work. I just fudge my way through things, and I only learn when I have a problem to solve. Um,
Hey, me too.
so yeah, it's fine. It's not like we probably just take longer than everybody else, and
Probably.
it still gets done.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess I'll just turn it on and see what happens, and then it inevitably something will go horribly wrong, and I won't have a clue what it was. So, like, get this. I mean, for the longest time, not the longest time, I'm probably exaggerating, but for longer than it should have, I would fire up GarageBand. Just that's what I use to do podcast stuff, because it's simple and we're just doing voices. It's not that, you don't need that much heavy duty stuff most of the time. Um, and well, I should say I used to. Shout out to Nick. Because
Nick,
Nick's editing this podcast for me right now, and he was so nice to do so. He's the man. I mean, I don't envy him, but he seems to like it. He has to listen to me raw, and like I sound even worse than I do right now.
thanks, Nick.
But I just use GarageBand for most stuff. But I can't even tell you how embarrassingly long I was like, why am I only getting one side when I record? Like, I'm plugged in, everything looks right. Maybe my computer's broken. I don't know. I guess I'll just bounce it out and then rebounce it back in so that it's mono. And then I realized you're recording only one half of the stereo track. You just need to switch over to a mono track and you'll be okay. That was really
I
dumb.
feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Really, really dumb. But yeah, anyway. So things have progressed. And could you have ever imagined like what you've been up to these days, traveling around the country, filming stuff, and like having essentially, your own custom, not just custom, but your own like insane guitar pedal from the ground up, and like this whole blooper process that everybody is watching with bated breath. I think most of the listeners of this podcast know what we're talking about, but maybe you can go back and give the roots of blooper and kind of explain, more in more detail what I just kind of blurted out there.
Sure. Yeah, it's super exciting, and we're so close to done. The timing is great. Yeah, so I'm making a looper with Chase Bliss, And I mean, to go back to your first question about imagining like all this stuff, I know, and I, it's because of Joel. So I have to thank him. Actually, in the beginning, I was like quite a restless person at that time. Less now, but um, I almost stopped doing the demos like really early in, just because that's kind of how I am about stuff. And then Joel flew me out to Nashville for Summer NAMM, and that was kind of, I really enjoyed myself, and I think that's the reason I'm still doing it. So even back then, Joel was critical to just all the stuff I'm doing, and has been ever since. Um, and we were on a flight we were going to go film something with Tycho in San Francisco after NAMM. We were on a flight, and I don't really remember the particulars of that NAMM. But it's quite a zoo. It's quite a strange time of year.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you know about it. So we were in an interesting state of mind, I'm sure, and it was right on the airplane, where he just turned around and was like, "Okay, fine," because I really wanted a looper that was different. So I don't know if we'd been talking about it a lot that day or leading up to that day, but that was the moment where he agreed and was just dead serious. He's very convicted when things like that. Like it's funny. It's a good thing about Joel is he'll just make up his mind about something and it's on. So yeah, we started building this looper. It's called Blooper, and what I really wanted was I noticed that all the loopers were either like song builders or were quite odd. And so I would kind of be going back and forth between one or the other. Something like the count to five, where you're not really, if you have like a musical idea you want to loop, like that's not really what you're going to turn to. It's more like if you're just trying to explore and experiment. So I wanted to make a looper where you didn't have to choose one or the other, and it could just transform depending on the day, but was equally suited to both. So that was like the idea for Blooper, and it's taken ages to make.
Yes. Lots of late nights.
Yeah. I just forced myself to stop because I realized I just was really talking. I'm gonna leave some pauses so this can be a conversation between us.
You do. Yay. This is a podcast. Some people apologize.
Right.
You like apologize for talking on a podcast. And I'm like, no, if you keep talking, that makes my job easier because I just listen and absorb and pull things out. It's all good. So you spend a lot of time on this thing though. I remember when you showed it to me the first time, and you were just explaining what was going on, what the thought process was at the time. And you may have been able to tell my eyes started to roll back into my head, and I probably started like shaking a little bit or something. I was like, this is a lot for my little brain to handle right now, especially at NAMM, on this very, very squishy Chase Bliss carpet that he that he has lit out.
So soothing. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I just go there sometimes, like, yeah, of course I want to see Joel, but sometimes I'm just like, I want to go stand on that carpet for a little bit. There we go.
It's like the only safe space in NAMM, or that's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. But so how has it changed from like its inception to now, or conception? I guess
so much. It was a really bad concept at first. I tried to do too much. Yeah, if we had if that first concept had just been like submitted and completed, it would have sucked. But I guess that's normal,
Yeah,
like
it is
going through iterations and stuff. So it's changed a boatload, and most of it just comes down to simplifying things and making it intuitive. It's a bit of an overwhelming pedal, but I do think it's intuitive, and we did put a lot of effort into doing things for a reason. And the things that aren't immediately intuitive are kind of thoughtful. And I'm really looking forward to doing like tutorials and things that show people why it's designed the way it is, because there's all kinds of little nuggets and things it does. And we're in beta testing right now, and it's really cool when, the beta testers are like making these discoveries and validating, because you never really know. It's such a balance between complexity and like intuitiveness, because we want it to be as flexible and open-ended as possible. But if you take every opportunity to make it that way, then it's just impossible to use. And
Right.
It's such like a fine line you're trying to walk.
Yeah, you do end up sometimes with certain pedals where it's like, you're like, I want to save a preset. How do I do that? And it's like, well, hold your tongue to the roof of your mouth, twist this knob this way, and then twist this knob this way, and then stomp this switch 14 times, and then it's saved. And it's like, well, that's a little much, isn't it? Like, that's,
Yeah.
I understand that, like, it has to be that way sometimes, just because of various programming things that I don't understand, or, or physical things that sometimes that's just how it has to be. But I think the simplification of complicated pedals is kind of the way moving forward, because a lot of people get intimidated by Strymon stuff, by Chase Bliss stuff, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I think the process you're talking about, of like making sure things are there for a reason, and then that they perform in a way that you would expect, it's actually a lot harder than it might seem.
Oh yeah,
It
really is hard.
It's silly. It's almost silly, like how it's like how to figure out, like, we need to figure out the dumbest way to do this, or the simplest way to do this, and it takes a lot of brain power to do that. It's just it's kind of like, and it's also like sometimes it's just like waiting for the right brain to come up with the right idea. It's like for me, one of the coolest, or one of the like most interesting ways of implementing expression control is what Jack DeVille does with Mr. Black. And I'm like, why doesn't it not been done that way before? That seems so much easier, because on his stereo pedals, the controls that can be controlled via expression, you just turn the knob all the way up, and now that one's on expression. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Like why is that the first time that's been done that I know of? I don't know of anybody else that does it that way.
Me either.
Yeah, it's like, well, that took a long time to get to that, to arrive at that solution for all the smart people that work on this stuff. It's kind of funny sometimes.
There's so many things to consider. It's kind of, it's hard to believe the number of things that go into it, because if you do it right, it's invisible.
Right.
Like if
Exactly.
you do something, so there's so many little things that everybody just nails, so you don't notice them. But it would be easy to screw them up, and then your pedal stinks.
Yeah, that's no good. That's not good for anybody.
No.
So let's sidestep that a little bit. I think if people want more information on Blooper, it's coming, and B, there's already a lot out there. So hit the Google machine and start scrolling, I suppose.
Hit it.
Yep. But what about Pedal Crush? Let's talk about this book. You're writing a book, or you wrote a book, or you helped create a book. What's going on here? Yeah. Tell me more.
Sure. I finished the launch video for it today, so that's it's kind of the end of my official responsibilities for Pedal Crush, I think. That's definitely not true. No.
I was gonna say, wow, you really got off lucky. That's all, huh?
That's definitely not true. No, it's been wild. That's Blooper's a big thing that's been going on, but Pedal Crush has very much taken over my life in a way that I hadn't expected. So I can't actually remember when we started in earnest, but I think it was around, no, I'm not even going to try and guess. Anyway, it feels like I've been living, sleeping, breathing, eating Pedal Crush for a while, and it's super cool. I'm really excited, and they're coming out at the same time, basically. So,
okay.
Pedal Crush is ready to go. I think it's just about there, and the book is finished. It's just like the machines need to do their part, and binding, and they're physical objects. So it was super exciting. I co-wrote it, so I did it with Kim Bjorn, who has this company called Bjux, and they've made these two really, really great books on synthesizers called Patch and Tweak and Push Turn Move. And I just kind of came across them. I think my local music store had them, and they're just kind of perfect for what what I would want for that kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
They're really like information rich, but never unpleasant. And he just has a great eye for design and coming at these things.
All right, let me
Stop.
So, fair listeners, sorry, we had to hop off the original call there for a second. There was some weird mic clipping issues going on, and so he's switched microphones. Might sound a little bit different, but probably better that it sounds different than distorted.
Yeah.
So, normally we love distortion, but probably not in this context.
I'm unprofessional. My stuff is broken.
It's broke-a-did. Hey,
broked.
it's okay. The early listeners of this podcast will remember when I recorded 100% on my phone, and I was huddled in a chemical lab at work. When there was nothing to do, I was recording a podcast instead.
Good.
So
Let's bring it back.
So there's been a big evolution in audio quality. This is going to be like a middle ground. So I think they'll be okay. So
Good. I feel comfortable.
okay, that's the most important. That way it flows. So let's go back here. So let's talk about Kim Bjorn a little bit again. So he's done a couple other books. Let's talk about that and go from there.
Oh man, I could talk about Kim Bjorn all day. That man is remarkable.
I know little to nothing about him, so that isn't going to hurt my feelings if you do that.
Okay, well, this is not like a doctor certified fact, but I'm almost positive that he's some people genetically need less sleep. You know about this thing?
Oh yeah, I'm not one of them.
No, me either. But Kim has to be, because in order to get these books done, he's not sleeping, and for kind of months on end. So it was a big undertaking to do this book, and as hard as it was for me, he was doing like a million other things. So Kim's miraculous. Give it up. But what about the books? Let's talk about the facts. So he's made these two other books called Push, Turn, Move and Patch and Tweak, and I really like them. I just encountered them kind of on my own, and I never owned them, but I read them, and they're really a great way to kind of take in this like encyclopedic subject in a way that's pleasant, and like you can learn a lot without it feeling like work. So when he approached me about doing this pedal book, it was exciting. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about doing any writing, and it's hard. Like it felt like a very big responsibility to try to condense a subject like pedals. So the way we did it is he was in charge of, well, many things, but when it came to writing, he did the interviews, and then I was doing the technical writing, meaning like, discussing the actual effects and stuff like that. And it's an insane thing to do.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Like looking back at those days when, I had like, I'm sitting down and, okay, today I'm going to start writing the delay chapter. Like I don't envy that guy, me from several months ago at all, because that's just such a crazy thing to do. And one thing I really liked about working with Kim is I get super weird when I work on stuff and like annoying, I get really annoying. Like I'm really annoying to myself, because I just like, I want to do it all. And I put like, I was like, this book is a big deal, and we have to get it. So I got really obsessive about finding all the things, and Kim was with me on that, which is nice, because otherwise it would have, I annoy myself.
Just from a level of obsession or like detail, or in what way do you find yourself annoying?
Oh man. Well, I'll just keep it about the book, like, and we were both just really ravenous about finding everything. And, you know, we still failed. Like, let's be honest. You can't find everything, but we wanted to. Like, that was, so if the subject was delay, like, we actually wanted to find every delay pedal that existed. And we couldn't include them all, but we at least wanted to know what our options were. And yeah, he was the same way. Is like, we were already like just overworked and, you know, crazy and sleep deprived, but we would still continue searching for more. And like, yeah, it was great to be on the same page about that. And it's just led to a really exciting book that, you know, baffles us both, I guess. Yeah.
Who is this book for, would you say? Is it for pedal nerds, or is it for people that don't really know anything about pedals? A little of both? Or what was your target kind of reader with it?
Yeah, it can work for both. I'm really big on writing things. Like, if you're explaining a subject, I feel like explaining it with experts in mind is kind of silly.
Good point.
You know,
yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, and you can, deepening someone's understanding is great and important, but I'd much rather come at it from, you know, not the ground floor, but just come at it like that anyone can understand what we're talking about. And I think that's like kind of the voice, and that's not to say it's like elementary, but I think that there's like all levels of information in it. And, you know, one thing I really wanted to do, which is just cool, is just like make, even for people that have used these effects like a long time, pick out like the interesting technical things or historical things that just like no one person can have all this information, and I didn't, you know, like that's the thing, is it's not like this was all in my brain to begin with. We just tried to find like everything inspiring about every effect and put it in one place, in like plain language. I guess that's what I mean about, you know, we really tried to keep the language simple and keep it approachable. You're going to need to know what pedals are. I think. Right. I think that's like you're going to need that, but otherwise you should be fine.
Do you ever find in well, I guess I should say in just day-to-day life, you know, you and I are the type of people that like, we're in this thing, right? Like almost 24/7, but like inevitably you're going to run into somebody somewhere, someplace that is like, so yeah, what do you do? I have a hard time explaining what I do to people. Like, well, I interview people about guitar stuff. That's kind of the way I condense it down. And then they're like, oh, like who? And I'm like, well, you know, anyone really that is involved with guitar stuff. But like, I've talked to a lot of pedal builders, and I always get like, pedals? What, like, huh? Like most people who see a guitar player, they don't realize that for most electric players, they've become, in some form or fashion, whether you just have a tuner or, you know, you have a massive board, you know, they've become kind of an essential part of most electric players' rigs. But I still find that most people don't know what they are, which is a really funny thing for somebody like me and you who are so obsessed with it. Do you have a hard time explaining to people what you're up to and why it's cool or why it's interesting?
Oh, I have an impossible time. Yeah. I don't think I've ever succeeded.
I feel like you could show them your demo though. Like I can't necessarily just show somebody a podcast. They'd be like, yeah, okay, I guess I get that. But like, you could be like, here, I make these videos and people watch them. Is it still kind of like, I don't get it?
Yeah, it's funny because like it's, you know, it's obviously something that you and I both do a lot, and I don't think I've ever gotten any better at it. And I think frankly at this point I'm kind of resigned to the fact that like they're not really going to get it. So I just say like, you know, I like my work. I don't know, just like keep it understandable. I mean, people do know what guitar pedals are, but it's kind of fun going through airport security with guitar pedals in your bag.
Yeah, it's so good.
Like,
I've never gotten stopped really. They usually are like, I actually have had a few TSA guys, like one or two really, and they're like, what is this? I'm like, oh, it's a guitar pedal, and one guy was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's one of my people right there. He knows. Yeah. And so it's kind of, the first time though I was flying with pedals, I was genuinely nervous because I think I had I had like 6 or 7 in my carry-on, and I was like, oh, they're gonna think these are some sort of thing that they're not. This is gonna get ugly, and it never has been a problem. But have you had any issues traveling with pedals?
Well, not like a real issue, but I did get my bag searched like a month ago. But it was fun. And she didn't know what it was, and it was Blooper. And she didn't know what it was, but she appreciated the craftsmanship of the object.
So, that's cool. That's really cool.
She thought it was cool and decided it was non-threatening. So, yeah.
That's because she didn't plug it in. She would have plugged it in. She would have realized how powerful the device was.
Heck yeah.
It's going to suck in the space-time vortex or something.
Yeah.
So let me slide over while we're talking about all this stuff, and I've got some questions from my Facebook group.
Oh, great.
Specifically for you. Let's
fun.
Fire that up and see what the peeps want to know. I think we've covered a lot of it. Maybe, actually, this would be a good time while I'm searching through here to find when exactly is the book and Blooper coming out.
Yeah.
While I search through these comments here real quick.
Now's the part where I try and remember if that's a secret or if that's been announced yet.
Well, you can say it if it hasn't, and then I'll make sure this episode doesn't come out until it's supposed to. Then we'll be all good.
God, like, you'd think I would know this.
I understand.
I don't think either of them are announced, but they're both close. And if I'm wrong, they're going to be bummed because that's good information that I should be sharing. I don't know, so I'm going to play it safe. Stay tuned, y'all.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned, y'all. All right, that's
really
fun.
Soon.
That gave me enough time. That gave me enough time to find some stuff.
Cool.
So let's see. We've got Andrew Spann. He would like to know. Well, let's not go 10. That's a little too many. Let's go 5. He said, I'd like to hear a list of his top 5 pedals. There's a second part here. Let's get into that later. Let's go with the top 5 first, and we'll see how that plays out in the conversation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be wrong, but I really like the Shallow Water. That's probably my favorite pedal. I wish I could see them right now. At the moment, I'm very interested in spending more time with the 856 by Montreal Assembly.
I don't know what that is.
It's it's like a it's a big white looper that they make that is I just make music it's very different. It's very unique, and I make music that I really like with it every time, and I think that's the only pedal that I can say that about. So yeah. Cool. Let's call this a top 5 right now list instead of all time.
Of course, it's going to change tomorrow, so I understand.
Yeah. There's a pedal called the Driving Notion. Sorry. Dry throat, a little parched. There's a pedal called the Driving Notion by NAMM, who I believe are out of business now, and that's my favorite dirt pedal. It's kind of an overdrive. It's probably an overdrive. I just really like how it feels to use that. So that pedal rules. What else? Oh, the Tensor by Red Panda. I think
Tensor's incredible.
It's incredible. I really like that pedal.
That's interesting. Oh wait, is that 4? Is that 5?
That's 4. I'm trying not to say Chase Bliss because I feel like that's bias, but I mean one of my favorite pedals is definitely by Chase Bliss. Yeah. Let's say Tonal Recall. Let's say Tonal Recall.
Tonal Recall? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a solid list. That's a solid list, and one I've never heard of, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But this gets the Tensor part gets into a good part of Andrew's next question, and since I can kind of see where he's going with this, and let's see if you feel the same way. Mm-hmm. He was wondering about your preferences regarding the Count to 5, the Tensor, and the Mood for various applications, because they all kind of, and I can see where he's going with that. They kind of have some of the same vibe, same kind of people that they're targeting, and artists that would use them. So I know they're very different, but I think I know where he's going with that.
Yeah, they make some of the same sounds. I think in a lot of ways they actually get unfairly clumped together for being unique. That's something I noticed, is that you'll see some people, it's not that common, but you'll see some people that are already like a little fatigued with granular style pedals. And I think that's kind of crazy, because the only reason they sound similar at all is because it's new, because it's novel, and it's so new that we haven't even really like organized these things into their own category yet, which is why, we're comparing the roster and the count to 5. Because I think the roster is kind of like a tape machine with granular benefits. Like, that's how I think about it, as like a very solid piece of machinery. Like the tensor feels like a very physical piece of machinery to me. Like, I can almost imagine a tape machine, but with a big old brain on top. Whereas the count to 5 is, these very distinct modes that each do very clear things. And it's just those kind of like chirpy Smurf sounds that kind of bind them together. And then the mood is kind of its own little world. I was involved in the mood project, so again, I'm not like very objective, so I'm probably going to avoid like having an opinion on that one. Just too close to it.
Yeah, that's something I've discovered through a lot of these. I've gotten fortunate to do nothing like at that level, but I've gotten fortunate to do, some collaborations and things. And I realized that, like, I love all of the collabs I've gotten to do, but also, like, I'm too close to really feel like I have a fair opinion on it, Like, I don't want to lead people astray and be like, this is the perfect pedal for you. Why? Because I think it is.
Oh,
Why?
Man, totally.
Because I was involved in it. Like, oh, of course. Okay. Well, yeah. I want people to know that, like, when I say things that I really mean them, and I know that can be hard when, like, you're so heavily attached to a project. So I feel you. I do.
I feel like it's just not necessary, like I could so easily be like a hype man for the things that I work on, but they're just good and I like them, and I feel like, yeah, I think that sometimes people think that, like, we sit around scheming how to sell pedals and stuff, but it's actually so much simpler than that. Like, they're just awesome. They're just great, and like, you don't have to get that weird and manipulative about it, because they're fun to use and I enjoy them a lot.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's find another one of these questions here. Okay, here we go. We didn't get too into this, and so this is something I should have expanded on earlier, but let's get into it now. Matt Kimes, well, we kind of already talked about the book there, Matt, so you got that question for free. He wants to know, what kind of music do you listen to currently, and how it influences your demo work? Oh, cool. And he says the Dark World demo was dope.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I'm really inconsistent with music. Like, it's something I don't like about myself, is I don't listen to albums. Like, I have a very impatient approach to music. So it's very scattered. And I think it has a lot to do with, like, what I'm up to. If I'm focusing a lot, I'm just going to listen to chill hop and get things done. Like, the whole time I was writing the book, it was just chill hop, because it's the only thing that was, like, productive. I have a song by Avi Buffalo in my recent saves. Childish Gambino. I really like Unknown Mortal Orchestra, and I got to meet him when I met you in Portland, Blake.
Yes, and I didn't know who I was talking to at that time. I knew you, but I didn't realize that was him for whatever reason. I'd heard his music before, but I was like, oh, yeah, I was a cool guy, and I got home, checked Instagram, I was like, oh, you serious? They just waited till I went home to do all the cool stuff.
That's a really great band. My musical taste is a little strange. Like, I actually feel like a bit of a fraud sometimes, because I don't spend enough time just listening to music. So that's what's up. I'm literally just scrolling through Spotify right now. I like Deerhoof. I like Nujabez. I don't know. I swear I listen to music.
I do, for real. Music is so good. It's wonderful.
I hope that's an answer.
Sure, that counts. I'll count it as an answer. Let's see. Here we go. Well, we won't get into we're still a little early for the final question, but this is well, I think you kind of already answered it, actually. If it was one of your top 4 pedals. Paul Marsh was asking what your favorite Chase Bliss pedal is, but you kind of, if Tonal Recall's in your top 4, then that's kind of got to be the one, right?
Yeah, that pedal rocks. I use the Blue Knob one, which is like, yeah, it's kind of quirky. Like, I think that one's discontinued, and that was a smart move for a delay pedal, but it's just this weird thing. It's very, very pleasing for me. It feels like a nice extension of my guitar the way I want to use it.
I always preferred the Blue Knob too. I kick myself for not picking one up when they were still around. I'm still mad, but oh well. I'm actually the weirdo that and another discontinued one. My favorite currently is it's between the Dark World and the Spectre. I love Spectre.
It's an awesome pedal. Yeah.
Oh, it's like gnarly and scary in all the right ways. It's the pedal that actually made me fall in love with Flanger. I didn't think I liked Flanger up until that point, and then I got a Spectre, and it was like, oh, no, you're wrong. Flanger is one of the coolest effects, and you've been wrong your whole life. And then I kind of got obsessed with Flanger because of it, but Spectre's incredible.
I went through the same experience, yeah.
So what about the rest of your rig? What kind of guitars are you playing? We don't really see that side of the chain that often. How about your guitars and amps?
I was using a Dan Electro Dead on 67 for the longest time. I just had a guitar made for me. I'm glad you asked, because damn, that guy deserves a shout out. It was by a man named Mike Baranick, and he was so cool. He basically reverse engineered my Dan Electro to be better in every way.
Nice.
Because it's a cheap guitar, and it's like I didn't even realize how kind of not only cheap but worn out it was, and when I got a new guitar, and then I had them side by side, I was like, oh yeah, my guitar's dying.
It's broken. It's a tired soldier. It's been through many battles.
But I was really weird about it because I bought the guitar that I'd been using cheap ages ago, and I always just had it in my head that one day I would become a real boy and buy an expensive guitar like the adults. And but what really happened is I actually just got like so used to playing it that when I go into a music store, when I try other guitars, I feel super uncomfortable. So I actually became like dependent on it. But Mike, the saint that he is, he made a guitar that like feels very natural. Like it feels like just the same thing, but better in every way. It feels very at home. So that's my guitar.
So tell me about it. What's it got going on? Because I'm not familiar with that particular Dan Electro model.
Yeah, so it uses lipstick pickups, which I think are super cool.
Definitely.
Not that I really know the difference, but I like them a lot. It has one cool thing that he built into the guitar that he made for me is this string mute that you can raise up, so it makes it sound like a plucked violin when you have the mute up.
That's cool.
It is cool, and yeah, you just immediately start playing differently, which is great. What else can I tell you about this guitar? I adore it. It has a pickup blender. You can switch off. It has a humbucker in the bridge, and you can take out one of the coils or one of the pickups, so it becomes a single coil.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's just really versatile and responsive and a good time. And then I just use a Blues Junior for my amp, but I do have some. I've been discussing amps with Otis amps, and I have a couple of those coming in. And
cool.
Yeah, and then I'm just not gonna play any pedals, I think, for like, not ever, but I'm really just gonna spend some time with this amp and this guitar and write some songs, I think, if possible.
Yeah. seems kind of crazy that Knobs is going to not use pedals, but I think I understand after going through this process with Blooper and then even probably even more tiresome in some ways, the book. Like, it's like, I love pedals, but I don't want to see one for like a month or two. Like, they're just when you're even into something you love that heavily, after a while you need to come up for air. It's a refreshing thing.
I just think it's about time. I love using them, but I think more importantly, it's like I have this guitar made and I have these amps coming in, and I just want to. I don't want anything between them. I really just want to spend some time with them and just appreciate it. Like when you were asking if I could imagine flying around and doing all this stuff, like having these objects in my life is absurd. They're so beautiful, and I'm so fortunate to have them, and I just want to like use them on their own for a bit.
That makes a ton of sense. Well, I'll be curious to hear what you come up with and sonically, because I just associate you so heavily with severely affected guitar tones, and so it'll be really really interesting to hear you just play as yourself, and Joe Bonamassa is going to be very happy with you for that.
Good.
Shout out to Joe. You're welcome on the show anytime, man. I DM'd you, but maybe I like pedals too much for Joe. I don't know. So, what do you think is next then? So you're gonna spend some time writing some songs and all that, but project wise, what do you see on the horizon? Can you reveal any of that, or are you still not sure?
There's some stuff that I can't reveal. I mostly just said that because it's to sound mysterious.
Oh, yes. I know that's your favorite thing, to be mysterious.
But it is true. There's some things that are going to happen. But actually, right now, it's been a stressful little stretch and an arduous one. I think I used that word right. So I'm gonna not do things for a bit, except for music. I'm going to actually finish some songs, and I don't have a good music practice right now. So I'm going to make one. That's the next project.
What's the plan? How are you planning on developing a good music practice? Because I've quite literally never had one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used to have one, but
not me.
I'm not even sure. I had it's kind of good timing. Do you know who Heinbach is? Do you know the YouTube channel Heinbach?
That sounds really familiar. I've probably stumbled across something before. I can't pinpoint it in my head though.
He does synth stuff, and he makes music with like old pieces of machinery that were not intended for music. Anyway, he has a great YouTube channel, and he visited this weekend for like a little synth show that was happening in Toronto, and his demeanor and his approach to things is kind of exactly what I needed to hear, and I just hope that I don't forget what he was saying, because it was just, one of the things he said, which is so simple, was just that he'd rather make 10 things than one.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like regardless, even if that one thing was a masterpiece, and I think the point and the context we were talking about is just like, he doesn't want to suffer. Like he wants to keep things moving, and he wants, like, the personal experience of creating is very, very important to him. And I'm really the opposite. I beat myself up so much to try and like execute a perfect idea as I see it. And yeah, I'm feeling really inspired to like do the Heinbach thing and just put things out there and not labor so much to make everything perfect.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I can relate to that a lot. I always wanted to create, things that I thought were really cool and that were really exciting, and I think I've partially succeeded in doing that, but I found that like I would stress too much about it not being just right. And at some point, like, I heard somebody say, I think it was like some sort of like entrepreneur guy or something, but he's like, it was Seth Godin, for any, entrepreneur nerds type type people out there. He's like, you just got to ship it at some point, and then you just got to ship it, and then people will respond to it, and then you can adjust from there. I'm like, that counts. That's the way everything is, whether you're talking about business stuff or art stuff. Sometimes you just got to get it out there and let people chew on it for a little bit, and then you can do better next time. Or, whatever. So I've kind of gotten more comfortable with myself as a player. I was always stressed that, like, oh, I'm not that good, and I'm not that good, but, like, that's okay. Like, I play the way I play, and I'm much more comfortable with it these days than I ever have been. Not to say I don't get really inspired when I watch somebody, like, I don't know, just shred their face off. I mean, right now I'm on a big Covet kick. I probably will be forever. I've become a huge fan of that band, and Yvette is just the coolest person and, like, one of the coolest guitar players I think ever. Not just right now, just ever. And so I'm really inspired by her at the moment, but at the same time, I don't have a drop of that talent. So the way I translate that inspiration is very much through my own filter, and it's a lot of fun. I gotta say, it's no one would ever put us in the same category if they heard the things that I would say that was something she inspired. You'd be like, really? Sounds more like Nirvana to me, like, I'm like, oh yeah, but I tuned my guitar in this stupid way and played these, it kind of came out the same because I put everything through a punk rock filter of some sort. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that line of talking.
No, I think that's super valid. Like, to go back to the Heinbach thing, like, what got you moving in the first place and what got you fired up was something else, and you, all the better that it wound up sounding different, right? But yeah.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, there's no reason for me to do a cheap version of what she does because A, I can't, and B, yet. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even gonna try. It's just like it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but I think you're following me. I'm just kind of vomiting words at this point.
I'm totally following you.
So, like, here's a question for you. What is in, like, right now, and I know it's evolving and changing all the time, but what is the coolest thing that you've gotten to do, or the craziest thing that you've experienced from this process, from making these demos and getting to travel all over the place? What's one of the more memorable things?
Ooh. Let's see. I just feel like it's getting better and better. I mean, there's been some really interesting moments, and yet nothing at all is coming to mind. I mean, meeting Ruben, he's like my favorite musician that we've got to meet personally. Like, that was a good moment, but I don't know. I think that this is like a cheap answer. I'm just going to call myself out right now.
All right.
But it's an answer, and maybe it'll be interesting to hear. Is, one thing I've really noticed is we've gotten to spend time with people like Kid Koala and Tycho, and I've really noticed, like, a common thread. Like, their personalities are completely different, but there's a common thread I've noticed in the work ethic that I found really inspiring, and just this level of passion, and this level of passion that I'll never match. But it's so interesting to see that's what it is, and it's so real. And these guys will make music all day, every day, and it's kind of cool to see that's actually what's happening behind the scenes, and that's how these musicians get to the point that they do. At least some of them is this very real appetite that, doesn't seem to, like, curdle or go away, because, not only do they do it all the time, but they have to, right? Like, it's their livelihood. So, and in spite of that, they're just happy to spend time in the studio, and I don't know. That I'm not even answering the question you asked, but it's an interesting thing.
It is. I mean, when you see somebody that dedicated to their craft, kind of regardless of what it is, Whether it is a musician or whether it's like Eero from Eero Dreams of Sushi. I don't know if you've seen that documentary, but like,
not.
It's pretty interesting. It sounds on the surface like it might be kind of boring. It's about a guy who learns to make sushi, like the best sushi in the world, and it's his singular focus. But when you see somebody that dedicated to a craft, something that they have to physically do, or physically create or come up with, I think it can serve as an inspiration for everybody. I think that it resonates with people. It's like, wow, that guy really cares about what he's doing. And, I get a lot out of that when I see somebody that really cares what they're doing. Like I see, I got to go to Carmine Street Guitars a few years ago and watch Rick and Cindy like work. And it's like, they're doing it, like some of their processes are admittedly, like ask them, crazily inefficient. Like, hand planing things versus just using a planer and this thing. And it's like, they do it because they love the process, not necessarily because like they don't want to improve or anything. It's just, they love doing it that way. And there's a certain magical human element that is sort of intangible. But when you see somebody that fired up about it, it's infectious. And I think it helps us as creators and helps, the listeners, they know what we're talking about. Like, everyone that's listening to this podcast is a music fan. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about right now.
I love that stuff. It's absurd. Like, it's so absurd. The whole thing is so silly, and like, if aliens were to look at guitar builders, like what a wacky thing. And I just, it's like actually wonderful that there are enough people passionate about making these things and using them that like, this is a thing. Like these are jobs.
Right.
How wonderful.
Yes. How wonderful. Big thank you to everyone that's listening to this right now and everyone that's ever bought a guitar, anything. because like the fact that we get to do what we're doing is absolutely mind-blowing to me. Especially
Seriously.
me from like 7 years ago wouldn't believe. If I time traveled back and was like, hey, you're gonna be doing this, I would have been like, you're insane. No, that's not even possible. It's not gonna happen. It's hard to wrap your mind around sometimes. So big thank you to everybody. Honestly, we owe them the world.
Yeah, it's so real. I told you I just finished that Pedal Crush video today, and it was hard. And every video has snags. And there was definitely a moment, I think, last night where I was just like not happy, and but I something reminded me how great all this is, and you can't forget it. It's awesome.
It's really special.
Yeah.
Well, we've been doing this with our little interruptions and stuff. We might actually be slightly overtime. I'm not 100% sure, but that's okay. So we better dive into the final questions, and otherwise won't be able to talk you into any Patreon action. We can't let those folks hang.
Cool.
So final questions, classic questions. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
I'm gonna say the DD3.
All right. The DD series comes up a lot. Some people have different numbers they like, but the DD is a very reoccurring answer. So
Yeah.
Not at all surprised. That seems like something that'd be up your alley. And then the last question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, man. I just like pizza with a lot of stuff on it. Like, there's no number of toppings that would be too many toppings for me.
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting answer. I haven't gotten that one before. Next time you're in Portland, I've got to take you to a place called Flying Pie.
Sounds good.
They're not what I would say is my 100% favorite pizza in the area, but it's pretty good. But what they do really well is pile on the toppings. Like you're not eating that many slices of that pizza. They are generous. So,
and I'm not even necessarily talking about like you can't see the cheese. I think I just have like a very unrefined palate, so I just want 10 different kinds of toppings all mingling, Mm-hmm. It's a fiesta.
I like it. It's a party. It's literally a party pizza.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a good answer. But I do got to know, thin crust, thick crust. What do you care?
I'm trying to keep the crust to a minimum. Yeah, that's where I get elegant.
That's where I get refined. With my thin crust, I eat it with my pinky out, of course. All right. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to leave the listeners with where can they find you, or just a general anything you'd like to tell them? Right now, this is your chance to put up a billboard and say whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm feeling really good about the projects that we discussed on here. I'm excited to get them out there. I really stand behind them. That's the cool thing, is you're not sure when you're in the middle of these things, the book and Blooper, if they're going to be what you hope. And honestly, in both cases, I was pretty resigned to the fact that they wouldn't be. But they are. So those are things coming out that I'm very proud of, and a little still like in disbelief that they're finished. But they are. So those will be things to look out for. Really stoked to see what people think. That's what's up. I thought of a better answer to the thing that I like most. Or what was your question?
I was just basically like, what was I think in a roundabout way what I said was, what was the most memorable experience of this process of making the book and making Blooper and traveling all over the place?
And then I couldn't remember anything. So that isn't even the question I thought you asked.
Well, I said it in kind of an idiotic way, so there's a good chance that I didn't say it exactly right.
Okay, well, whatever. I guess we're here now, so I should say like what I thought the question was. When we're working on Blooper, we realized pretty quickly that we all had to be in the same room to get things done. So we've done all these trips that we've documented, right? And it's such a unique thing, and I loved it more and more each time, where we would go on these trips and travel across the continent. And they're just so boring, and we all love it. We all love it so much, and that's like, I guess what the question I'm answering is like, what am I, most pleased by, or whatever. Like the most amazing thing that's been afforded to me is like, I just love being in some strange city and not leaving the Airbnb for 3 days, because we're all like so passionate and dedicated to what we're doing that's what we want to do. Like that, it's a strange dream that most people would hate, and I'm like really happy to be around people that are the same way and just want to like get in there, and yeah.
All right, that works for me.
Just save the worst for last.
That works for me. That's fun. Well, you did get out at least in Portland a little bit, because we were hanging out at the Benson shop, and that was a great time.
That's
so
true.
That was fun. So thanks for inviting me to that. Well, that was very nice of Joel to text me, and that was fun. I wish I could have stayed longer, but yeah, dad duty calls. So that takes precedence over guitar pedals even.
I think you made the right choice.
I know I did. I know how late you guys are up. I'm too old for that.
I got carried away.
You got carried away with your blooping. That's easy to do.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put a bow on this thing. So, for Scott, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Okay, we did it. There's another one in the books, on the record, all that good stuff. So glad that was able to happen, and huge thanks to Scott for coming on and hanging out and nerding out with me. And guess what? We did a little more for Patreon. So if that's your thing, if you are interested in extra content every week coming towards your ears, right into them, right into your ears. Some of them are short and sweet, like this conversation. Some of them are a whole another hour of content for you guys, and it starts at just $5 a month. You can get it over there. There's no ads. There's no nonsense on it. It's just straight content and straight chat. So if that's what you're into, that's the place to go, and it definitely helps support the show, and it's very, very, very much appreciated if that is your thing. If not, I understand. Just tell a friend. Tell a friend, send a tweet, send an email, do something. Just spread the word of the show. That helps immensely. I can't even tell you how important that is. So please help amplify this signal. We'll get it out to more players, get it into more people's rotation, and that helps out tremendously. All right, until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye, 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 bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.